Ezekiel has some fascinating chapters. Now, I don't know how this will come out here on the board. Yesterday, it came out backwards. But I am talking from Ezekiel chapter 46 in a minute. Ezekiel's a great book. It's got some fascinating chapters like 18, where God seriously says that children do not inherit any guilt from their parents. Chapter 37, a favorite of many of us, the valley of the dry bones. But chapter 46, when you read that slowly, you got to slow down on that one just a wee bit. You look at it and you say, what? Go ahead and read Ezekiel 46. The topic is the manner of worship. And there's a subtle surprise in there. When the royal prince or the king went into worship, give his burnt offering, and so forth, the rule was that he would go in one door, but he had to go out a different door. He had to leave not the way he came in. Was not allowed to leave the same way that he came. Now here's the application. Who is royalty today? We are, as Christians. After all, we are the brothers and sisters of Christ the King, right? When we come to worship, we come to the communion table where we remind ourselves of Jesus' sacrifice. See the connection? Royalty coming to the sacrifice. Then when we leave, we had better be changed. Yes? Well, what about that change? Oh yeah, it's easy to say, well, yeah, I've got to leave differently than I came, but what about the change? Well, it's not to be announced, either before or after. We don't get a bullhorn, stand outside the church and proclaim, I'm going in to have communion, and boy, you better see how great I am when I come out. That's not what it's about. Also, that change makes us do two things: give graciously and receive graciously. Now, let me tell you how that works here at the North Baltimore Church of Christ. I got a call earlier this week from one of our church people who said, I see a need. Here's a need. Would it be okay if I took care of that in the name of the church? Not as if it's coming from me, but to do it in the name of the church. My response was, sure. What do you need? How can we join hands with you in meeting this need? It was simple. No fanfare, nothing in the local news. The need was handled. A few days later, the person who received the blessing asked me, hey, did you know how we were blessed this week? It was great. It was wonderful. And they went on to tell me about it. Remember the story I told you about the people in Haiti who cleaned our shoes? Why did they do that? You need to see that when you get there, you watch people as you're driving up into town and to the church, and there's people walking along the roads. They're heading for church where you're going to be in a few minutes. Some of them walk up to 3 hours to get to church. Not drive, walk up to 3 hours. That's why when we're there, we are in the habit of feeding them dinner after church so they don't faint from malnutrition on the way home. Well, those folks are very conscious of their appearance when they go to church. And let me tell you an aside on that. On any given Sunday, the church is always packed full, but 1/3 of the people of the church are all who are there. It's just 1/3 of them. You see, 1/3 are sick. Remember the malnutrition. And illness is just rampant there. For another 1/3, these are the ladies who don't have anything nice to wear to church. And I have been told this privately and off to one side. You see, for three women together will own one good dress. So on any given Sunday, one of them comes to church wearing the dress, and the other two stay home because they don't have anything nice to wear. Yeah, they're very conscious about their appearance. Well, then they don't really laugh at us, but they understand us Americans when we get there. The men all come in suits and sport coats, ties, very well dressed. Underneath their sport coats, they have long sleeve shirts. And if it's cold outside, if it's below 80 degrees, they'll have a sweater in between the coat and their shirt. Yeah, if it's at 80, or might get clear down to 75. Well, then we American men, we can't even wear sport coats or a suit there. We can't stand the heat in that tropical environment. They understand that. But then they look at us and they realize that we have traveled to be there that morning, and they see our shoes. Because you see, they walked to church, and the first thing they do when they get to the church building is they get a towel and they clean their shoes so that when they go into God's house, their shoes are clean. Well, then they came over and they washed ours so that we would not be embarrassed in worshiping by having dirty shoes. It's very humbling, very humbling. Don't come to God announcing for all to hear that, by golly, I came here to be changed, and when I leave this place, I'm going to be super religious. Don't do that. Come asking, among other things, that God will make us into the servants that he needs us to be. People who can give grace and receive graciously. Check out Ezekiel chapter 46. Come in one way and determined to leave differently in a very positive way.